Friendship. Characters: Miss Sullivan, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Wong. Mrs. Garcia, Mr. Brown, "What a lovely Saturday morning," Mr. Brown said while he was walking to the bakery to buy bread for his breakfast. Dodie, his dog, was walking with him, barking and jumping happily. When they arrived at the bakery, he met his neighbors, Miss Sullivan, Mr. Wong, Mr. Thomas, and Mrs. Garcia.
Good morning, everyone.
"Good morning, Mr. Brown," they replied. After they bought their bread, they had a little chat. They talked about the church fair on Saturday. "I'm going to cook some Spanish dishes for the fair."
I'm going to make some typical Peruvian food.
"I'm going to bake some vanilla and orange cakes."
So I'm going to eat a lot tomorrow.
Everybody laughed.
I have to put up a stand for the fair, and I need some help. Who can help me? I can, but after breakfast. I will meet you at the churchyard in an hour. All right, see you in an hour.
The next day, all the townspeople went to the church fair. It was nice. There were lots of games, food, and beverage stands. Everybody was happy. When the fair was over, Miss Sullivan, Mr. Wong, Mr. Thomas, and Mrs. Garcia met. I saved a delicious Spanish omelet for Mr. Brown, but he didn't come to my stand.
He didn't come to my stand either.
I didn't see him today.
Yesterday, he helped me put up my stand, and he promised to come to the fair today. I wonder what happened to him. He lives alone. Dodie, his dog, is his only companion.
I have his phone number. I will call him. Mrs. Garcia dialed his number. There was no reply.
I think we should go to his house and see what happened to him.
The four neighbors walked to Mr. Brown's house quickly. They were worried. When they arrived at his home, they rang the bell. They heard Dodie barking. They waited and waited. Finally, Mr. Brown opened the door. He didn't look well. "Are you all right, Mr. Brown?"
Not really. I feel awful. I feel dizzy and very hot.
"Oh, that sounds like a sore throat. Let's go to the hospital," they said. As soon as they arrived, the doctor checked Mr. Brown and told him that he needed to stay there for a few days. While Mr. Brown was in the hospital, Miss Sullivan fed Dodie and took him to the park. Mr. Thomas watered Mr. Brown's plants. Mr. Wong washed his clothes, and Mrs. Garcia cleaned his house. And all of them visited Mr. Brown in the hospital. every day. The day Mr. Brown felt well enough to go home, he had a big surprise waiting for him at home. There was a big banner on his door that said, "Welcome home!" As he entered, he noticed that his neighbors had taken good care of Dodie and the house. He was very pleased and grateful. So, when Mr. Brown recovered, he invited his neighbors for dinner. They ate an excellent meal, chatted, and laughed a lot after dinner.
Thank you all so much. You helped me when I needed you most. You are my best friends.
Mrs. Garcia got emotional. Miss Sullivan and Mr. Wong smiled.
We're happy to be your friends, Mr. Brown.
A few minutes later, they heard Dodie barking. They all looked at him. The dog continued barking and jumping out of joy.
Yes, Dodie, you're an awesome friend too.
And everybody smiled.